Regulations for food handlers and school nutrition programs has been under the spotlight in recent weeks amid an increase in foodborne illnesses affecting school children. A pesticide called Terbufos has been linked to the cases. Basic Education Minister Siviwe Gwarube is planning to ban the use of pesticides in schools. Now, for more on this conversation, I'm joined by the CEO of the governing body foundation, Dr. Anthea Cereseto. Dr. Anthea, always great to speak to you. Now, Minister Gwarube has proposed banning pesticides in schools. What immediate steps can schools take to protect learners while the ban is implemented?
Right, good afternoon. This ban that is proposed by the minister needs to be thoroughly worked out, and I think she is taking time before she gazettes it, because it does have implications. But schools are part of broader society, and we have the Department of Health and we have the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Education that have to work together on this. And right now I've issued some advice to our members, a couple of weeks back even, about school safety. It's part of school safety policy that they need to think of food safety. And it's been brought to our attention, of course, by the alarming increase in the number of children who've lost their lives, a terrible thing. And it is correct that the minister is addressing it. How it's done is another matter, because it's not children being contaminated at school. It has come out of the community. Obviously, they're young people, therefore they are school children, and that's why we call them school children. But the poisoning, as far as I am aware, was not from school products, the school nutrition program, or even school canteens, or what they call it, school tuck shops, which is perhaps different from the informal tuck shops, where they do have official certificates of acceptability and do adhere to the Department of Health food regulations. So we need to make sure that these illegal pesticides do not reach schools, obviously. Now, people at school, both the staff and even the school governing bodies, are not experts in controlled substances that are used for agriculture and ought not to be used in domestic facilities. So we do need the help of the other relevant departments to identify the chemicals that are toxic and must not be brought near any household. And then in the school safety policy, there needs to be rules about if food is sold at the school, that it's sold from a place that is registered and has the certificate of acceptability, and it is displayed on the wall of the school. We are quite alarmed at social network images, even the formal media images of illegal manufacturing places, making sausages, etc. So schools that buy in products also need certificate of acceptability from those providers. Now, there's some very reputable providers who will have all the regulations, requirements adhered to. So there are many things that we've actually told our schools, be aware, be alert. We tell our children. And actually, we think the food at the schools is a lot safer for the children, rather than the children not being allowed to eat at school, but having to leave school premises and go and find alternative little food stalls, which may not be as well regulated.
Dr. Anthea?
So getting the balance. Yeah.
So Minister Gwarube and her team certainly seem to be casting this net very, very wide and trying to find or coming up with solutions to deal with this problem. But you've mentioned that you don't suspect that the problem is internal, that it's within the schools. We spoke to Tulani Tefuta from NEDLAC, and one of the things he suggested was that there seems to be a mismatch, if you will, that government is not focusing on the cause of the problem. So the problem hasn't so much been the manufacture by spaza shops of food. It's about the source. And similarly,
yes,
this agricultural pesticide, right, is not coming from within the school premises. Do you get the sense that maybe the Department of Education or the minister and her team are not quite focusing on the actual problem?
I think the department is trying to protect its children, but it has to work with the two other departments, that is agriculture, and they've got to deal with the banning of the pesticides that are banned in other parts of the world, but we still have them. And then the Department of Health conducting experiments, and then local authorities doing what they're supposed to do. And what concerns us, and you've just had a program about waste removal problems, what we have to be concerned about is that waste is not removed in various local authorities for whatever reasons, and so we have a rat problem. So people in the community seek a solution to the rat problem. The products bought in an ordinary supermarket are not strong enough, so they need a stronger pesticide, and then they access these illegal substances. So we have to deal with proper refuse and waste control so that we don't have such a great need for pesticides. And then when it comes to other matters that relate to protecting people and food, water is another important factor. If you read the regulations about food handling, it speaks all the time about washing. And schools don't always have sufficient washing facilities, and then some local authorities don't even have sufficient water. So not being able to be hygienic in general because we're not supported by local services is also a problem that impacts on schools. And then thirdly, the electricity problem, not such a problem at the moment, but we rely on electricity for freezers and fridges to keep the bacteria at bay and to store food in proper conditions at the correct temperatures. So those support services of local authorities are very important. So we must get rid of the illegal pesticides, but we also need the support that is going to promote the healthy handling and manufacturing and distributing of food products. It's not a Department of Education problem alone. It's a school sits in a community with the community's challenges. And the minister can certainly give guidelines. There are already guidelines, standard operating procedures for running the school nutrition programs. They're very sensible. And as long as you can access water and washing facilities and whatever else is specified in there, and you separate certain activities, and you have proper toilet facilities so that toilet facilities are nowhere near the food facilities. All of those things are specified already in standard operating procedures. We've got everything in place. We just have to have better application of our legislation, better control. We got to deal with the corruption that is, we get good law and then somehow people work to get around it. We've got to deal with that. And we need more inspectors. So instead of having security paid millions of rand to protect waste removal people, those millions could rather be spent on inspectors checking that all food supply places are safe. It's corruption is costing, and it's meaning services can't be rendered as they ought to be.
Absolutely right, Dr. Anthea Cereseto, CEO of the Governing Body Foundation, walking us through some of the efforts that the Department of Basic Education is making in order to rid schools of those illegal pesticides.